So have you ever brought your dog or cat to the veterinarian because of a certain spot or spots where your dog or cat is constantly chewing and itching, and then it's always referred to as a hot spot by your veterinarian? Hot spot is a phrase coined by veterinarians to describe something when they don't know what it is, but an itchy spot. And it's also called a hot spot because it only occurs during the hot months, being spring and summer. And this is because it all boils down to one thing and one thing only. It is a fungus, okay? Typically, the most prevalent one that it boils down to is ringworm. Now, ringworm is not actually a worm. It's a fungus that grows in a ring, okay? So it is referred to as ringworm for whatever reason. I couldn't tell you. But it's always some type of fungi that causes your dog to constantly scratch, chew, and itch and lose fur. And it always seems to happen in the spring and summer. Fall and winter, it's gone. Why is that, you might ask? That is because in fall and winter, fungi, most fungi, not all, but most damaging fungi will go into dormancy or go to sleep because they don't really work well in cold temperatures. They move very, very slowly and they can't get anything done. So they all ball up into a little ball and they kind of vibrate together to keep each other warm for whatever it matters. It's only a small amount of warmth. So in the spring and the summer, based on the logs that I have kept with my own dogs and with my customers' dogs, in the spring and summer, when the temperature goes above 82 degrees for more than 5 days, it's like an alarm clock for the fungus. So that is why you see it in the spring and summer more often. Now, I know there's a ton of you out there that might say, well, my dog does it year round. Or you might say, my dog is in the air conditioner year round and he still does it and I don't know why. There is a big reason why dogs still itch even though they're indoors in the air conditioner, and it's barometric pressure. That has a lot to do with the alarm clock on the fungi. I noticed when the barometric pressure gets above a certain point, that means wake up, because it's spring or the temperature is just right for them to start doing their damage, meaning the fungi, of course. So barometric pressure outside affects everybody no matter where you're at. So that has a lot to do with it. Most of the time, these hot spots are coming from the food. And what is in the food exactly that is causing the hot spots? I've said it a million times, and it is an ingredient that I absolutely disagree with and hate being put in dog and cat food and human food for that matter, and that is yeast. Now, you're going to be told by all kinds of wrong media, especially on Google, they hog everything up to constantly mislead people, and they call it nutritional yeast. There is no such thing as nutritional yeast, in my opinion. None. Now, trace amounts of yeast help keep your immune system up and running. But large amounts of yeast that we consume and our pets consume on a daily basis, and I'm not limiting this to just dogs and cats. This goes for fish, dogs, cats, horses, pigs, cows. They're putting yeast in everything, and there's a big reason for that, and I'll have to do that in another video. But that is where 99% of the time is where the hot spots are coming from, which is actually a fungal infection. That's all that it is. So what can you do to help reduce the constant and incessant itching? And now I recommend these tips because putting your dog on prednisone or some type of corticosteroid, if you've ever seen those dogs that are really fat, they look really wide and they got like a tiny head, it just looks ridiculous, and they think, oh my goodness, that dog's so fat he needs to go on a diet. But really what it truly is water. It's just water weight, and that is because of corticosteroids. In my experience, after the second or third round of corticosteroids that you give to your dog or cat, boom, they blow up. And the problem is that it's just water weight. It's not like fat, like they were eating bowls of Crisco oil. That's not what it is. It's just water weight, and that is because of the steroids. So that benefits the veterinarian because now they say, whoa, your dog is way overweight. We're going to have to get them on some canned diet dog food, and this thing is going to cost you an arm and a leg. But if you truly love your dog or cat, you're going to do this, because we're going to take you into a small room and we're going to talk very softly to you, and make you feel very guilty if you don't buy this dog or cat food that is so much money. It is like a car payment. Okay, so I'm going to help you try to deter any of this away from you, or from your pet anyway. So you want to flip your bag around and look at the ingredient panel. If it has the word yeast on there anywhere, get rid of it. That is a main cause of it. Most veterinarians, not all, because I know of several that don't agree with this, most veterinarians will tell you that a raw diet for dogs and cats is so bad for them. Most of the time, it's not the veterinarian's fault, okay? The reason that they say this is because Purina and Hill's Science Diet, they own almost every single veterinarian school in the country, and they teach the students what's going to benefit them the most, okay? And that does wonders for them and does nothing for your dog or cat, nothing. So what does it do for Science Diet? What does it do for Purina to sell packaged dry kibble? There's all kinds of tax breaks involved with this. I'll have to do another video about the Farm Act. However, the big thing is that when they add ingredients that dogs should not be eating, it makes your dog sicker, or at least start to show symptoms, and that supports the veterinarians, and now there's constantly lines in a waiting room, and they're just rolling in it. This has a lot to do with the false story that came out years ago. Well, not really years ago, it was a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago, I think, about grain-free foods being bad for dogs. I don't agree with any dry kibble. I don't think dry kibble should ever be fed to dogs or cats, because their diet needs to consist of at least 60-70% moisture. So that means like a piece of meat. And if you look at your dog's teeth, they're all canines. There are no molars like maybe a cow has for crushing, or a horse crushing and chewing, you know. They have canine teeth for tearing and ripping and shredding. That's what they want. However, your dog can eat corn or rice in what I like to call a secondary way. Meaning this: if you watch National Geographic, if you see your dog kill something, or if you see a lion or a tiger, cheetah, cougar, doesn't matter what it is, if it's a carnivore, the first thing they eat is the innards, meaning the stomach, the liver, the kidneys, all the nutrient-dense organs of the animal. On the flip side of that, they eat the stomach first, and that is because, let's say your dog went out and killed a rabbit. The first thing he's going to do, they're going to eat the stomach every single time first, and that is because they need to borrow that bacteria out of the digestive tract of that rabbit in order to digest what the rabbit just ate. So maybe the rabbit was in a rice field and he was eating pieces of rice and rice grass. Dogs don't normally eat raw rice off of the stem or raw corn, but rabbits do. They definitely do. But they have the bacteria to break it down. Dogs and cats do not. So they borrow the bacteria in order to digest the rest of the rabbit. That is one way that they can eat that stuff. If you can get your dog or cat on a raw diet, meaning meat, that is the best way to start getting rid of any kind of itching, scratching, year-round shedding. It's not an overnight fix. It's going to take a little bit of time, because the yeast or the fungi that's currently in your dog or cat that makes them shed constantly is going to take time to work its way out. And how does it work its way out? Yeast works its way out through the sweat glands and through their poop, also through their pee, which causes kidney stones and so forth. I'll do another cat video on that, because cats get a lot of UTIs and kidney stones and stuff like that. I'll do another video to help you guys on that too. So if you can get your dog or cat on a raw diet, and that is not canned dog food, that is not canned cat food. For those of you that eat tuna, when I put a can of tuna in the can opener and push down and it makes that noise, my cats, all three of them come dum, 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 you know, running towards me like meow, meow. That's because that's what they want. They don't really care for the kibble. but they become addicted to the kibble. I'll get to that in another video, why they get so addicted and why they're constantly looking at you like, put the food in the bowl, put the food in the bowl. You have to get rid of the fungus. The fungus is all inside the stomach. It's called leaky gut syndrome, and even humans get it as well. Once it leaks through the gut, that's it. It's no holds barred. This stuff is off and running, and it goes anywhere and everywhere. It may take 1 month, it may take 5 months, and it may take a year. The older the dog is, the longer it takes. You can take an ice cube and put it on the hot spot itself, rub it around on the hot spot, and what you're doing there is you're putting the fungi and the itching into dormancy. Okay, it's kind of like Budweiser, where they say it's cold filtered. That's because they used to filter out all of the yeast. It actually used to be illegal to have yeast in beer back in the day. I swear, look it up. So what they do is they filter out, they cold filter it, is what Budweiser said on their commercial. They cold filter out all the yeast, because as soon as you drop the temperature of, let's say, yeast was in water, when you drop that temperature down to like 30, all right, the yeast goes into a ball, and it makes it easier to catch through a filter. So that's why they say cold filtered. So when you wipe the ice cube on the dog's itchy area, not only are you numbing it, but you're also putting that fungus into dormancy. It's only going to give maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes of relief, but it's something. You can also put hydrogen peroxide on it. If you put hydrogen peroxide on it, just hold the dog's head for a minute until the hydrogen peroxide does its job, because you don't want the dog licking it. It's not going to really hurt him, but if you keep doing it over and over and the dog's constantly consuming hydrogen peroxide, that's not really good. So you can also put hydrogen peroxide on the area. If you have dogs as bad as these, which were some of my customers in these videos here, you really need to take action quickly, very quickly, especially anything in the terrier family. They have huge allergic reactions to anything with yeast in it. So if you have like a pit bull, a bully, I have 2 bullies, which are outside. I can hear them right now barking. They must be chasing something, but if you have anything in the terrier family, they are going to have a reaction to yeast that is just not good. If your dog has bad breath, if your dog is older and starting to have vision problems, or you see that cloudiness on their eye, that too is just yeast. It is a fungus. That is a fact. It doesn't matter. I have done so many of my own tests with my own microscopes and my own petri dishes. The cloudiness on the eyes, the hard of hearing, the constant tilting of the head, it is all yeast, 100%, and I will debate it with any doctor on the planet Earth, any veterinarian on the planet Earth. It is a yeast infection, always. That's what it always turns out to be. So, to fix any of those problems, you can put hydrogen peroxide, even baking soda and water works, an ice cube, and you can put it in those areas. But oxygen is the #1 thing that will kill fungus. Oxygen. The feet is the most popular part, where the dog is constantly scratching and chewing and licking. But what you can do is you can take your dog swimming, because water is hydrogen and oxygen. So the oxygen will help get through the paws and allow oxygen to get in there. Also, taking your dog for walks, taking them outside, generating oxygen in the body, even in your own bodies, to de-yeast yourself, to de-yeast your pets. Generating oxygen in the blood, running, jogging, swimming, whatever it is. Generate oxygen, because it will kill yeast. Bad breath, ear infections, all that stuff, it's all related to yeast, every bit of it. If it is practical for you to put your dog on a raw diet, then by all means, I would do it, because they eat less, they shed less, they poop less, and it's just a win-win all the way around. I'll do another video on exactly why they put yeast in food. There you go. There's my take on that.